Hi everyone, my name is Carmen Champion and I own Main Street Yoga. I am talking to you today about creating some postures in the body while you're on this long weekend of Thanksgiving. And I know that when you're eating and traveling and trying to visit family, bringing some practice in doesn't really feel like something that is accessible. And I want to show you a few things that are accessible, whether you're not at home and you don't have any of your own props. And also, when you feel a little contained because you've been enjoying the holiday food. I also have to travel for the holidays, so I totally get it. There's a compression that starts to happen in the spine that is really, really frustrating, and you just want to find length and you want to feel that space. And then when you pile some food into an already compressed spine, you really just feel bogged down. And so a couple things that you can do just to get started and just to create some space. These postures are accessible to a variety of body types. Women who are pregnant could also be doing some of these postures, and you don't really need a whole lot of props or anything. And so the first one that we're going to do, I'm just sitting in a dining room chair. It wouldn't make any difference if it was a folding chair, which are pretty common to use around this time. So I want you to understand that, like, I'm not using anything special. It's just my dining room chair, and there are no arms on it. And so what I did was I moved myself to the front of the chair so that my feet are flat on the ground. That way, I'm not leaning back into the chair. I'm also not having my feet dangle so that they're really unsteady. So I'm going to ground through my sits bones and press up through the top of my head so I start to feel as though I'm lifting my ribs out of my pelvis. This way, I already get a little bit of length. I'll create some space in the body, and I'll also create some room for breath. From here, I'm going to take a nice deep breath in. With my exhalation, I'm going to turn to one side. I'm going to take my back hand and either place it on the seat right behind my buttocks, or I'm going to grab the side of the chair. I'm going to take the hand in front and I'm going to bring it over to the opposite thigh. I'm not going to thrust my chest out because then that creates an arch through my back that I'm not really wanting to bring in. So I'm going to try to keep my solar plexus drawn in so that I have some length through here and I can continue the rotation. And then I'm going to turn my gaze to my back shoulder. From here, I'm just going to take a few deep breaths. They won't feel as deep in the body because you are bringing a slight compression to your torso. I'm not leaning back into the chair. I'm just allowing my spine to rotate as it can. And I'm using my hands to just hold myself in place. With an inhalation, I'm going to come back through center, take a breath or two here before I rotate to the opposite side, bringing my gaze in the direction of my back shoulder as I continue to breathe in and out. When I'm ready to inhale and come back to center, I'm going to do so, and that's the end of my seated twist. The seated twist is going to get right into the spine. It's going to stretch out specifically the mid to low part of the spine. The next piece I'm going to do is a seated cat-cow. With cat-cow, you're working with both flexion and extension. In a seated position, you can do it in the car if you're not driving. And you also have some opportunities to do it in many seated positions or types of chairs is what I was trying to say. So from here, I'm just going to take my hands to my legs and I'm going to separate my legs slightly so I have more of a firm foundation in my feet. And with my inhalation, I'm going to grip in with my hands and I'm going to draw my heart up, pressing my tailbone back and lifting my gaze. Notice how I'm not dropping my head back. I'm just allowing my gaze to lift. And then with my exhalation, I'm going to tuck my tailbone under and pull my chin and my pubic bone towards each other. Inhale, open the front side of the body. Exhale, round the back side of the body. With your next inhalation, when you're ready, come back through center, allowing your cat-cow to come to an end. You can continue this at your own pace for the length that seems the most appropriate for you. For our next posture, we're going to do lateral flexion of the spine. So we're going to move side to side. My goal is to move your spine in a variety of different ways in this chair. From here, I'm going to take one hand and I'm going to bring it down to the side of the chair. Now, my hands don't necessarily grip into the chair, so I'm just going to let my thumb hook over so I feel like I have a little bit of support. If you were to have an arm to the chair, that could be supportive. It also could be limiting. So I'll move through it and you can see what I'm talking about. From here, I'm going to bring my arms out and up overhead. And I'm going to bring my palms together, and with an exhalation, I'm just going to release the arms down. And I'm just going to move through a few sun breaths to bring some space into the shoulders and some rotation into the shoulders. Inhale as I reach out and up. Exhale as I melt the hands down. Just a couple more times. And with your next exhalation, bringing your hands down through heart center, I'm going to take one hand and I'm going to bring it down to the side of the chair. I'm going to take the other hand and I'm going to reach it up. I don't want to rock over onto one sits bone. I want to stay balanced between both sits bones. I'm not even going over as far as I can go. If I wanted to go over as far as I could go, it would look a little more something like that. But then what that does is that brings some compression into the lower ribs that I'm not really looking for. So when I'm ready to inhale, I'm going to inhale, come back up through center, and bring the other hand down and grip the chair and reach up and over slightly. When I'm ready to come back through center, I'm going to come back up and just move from side to side. Inhaling as you come back up through center. Exhale as you come over to the other side. And just moving at the pace of my own breath, allowing my head to float between my shoulders. I can create space and length through the sides of the body, which really does feel good when you've been sitting for a long time. Not compressing ribs or the neck. And allowing a balance to come back into the body as you do both sides equally. When I come back through center, I'll just let my hands melt down through the middle. For a deeper flexion am I saying that right? For deeper flexion in the spine, you could even do a seated forward fold. And a seated forward fold would mean widening the knees and walking the hands forward. Now you could lower down to your elbows, and that could be plenty for you to press down into the elbows. Keep space around the collarbones and just let the chin draw towards the chest. Now, depending on how much room you're working with or what your tightness seems to be in the back of the body, you may walk your hands down and place them in between your feet. Taking a few deep breaths here. Allowing the back of the neck to be soft. You might feel some tension drawing into the face. And as you breathe, you may move your jaw around or shake your head, letting it go. And then with your next inhalation, bringing your hands to your knees, you can come back up slowly, back into your seated position. All right. I want to show one more item, and this is going to be a bit of a hip opener for individuals, for you. So I'm going to walk my knees in a little closer together, and I'm going to take my right ankle and I'm going to hook it over my left knee. Now I'm going to use my hand to support and hold this ankle in place. And so if you feel like it's comfortable holding it without your hands, you're welcome to. But sometimes that can give you some space to just not pay attention to it when you feel like your arm has it fairly contained. I'm not going to press down on my knee. I might energetically draw my knee down, so you might see how my leg can move just a little bit with its own effort. And that's okay. I don't want to push on the joint, because pushing on the joint could be twisting. I could take my hand and place it on the thigh right next to my hip crease, and that might be okay. You're going to listen to your body. Anytime we're working with knees and hips and joints, we always want to listen to the little whispers and how they start to show up. So what I'm working with here is external hip rotation. This is really great because chairs don't allow for that, and crossing your legs at the knee isn't necessarily the same thing. And so even though I'm not trying to press my knee past the knee that it's hooked on, I'm still getting some sensation through the outside of my hip. You can hold this for as long as what seems appropriate for you. You can hold it for 30 seconds. You could hold it for a couple minutes. And then when you feel as though that's come to a close, you can release the foot down. You might just waver the legs side to side. And then you can take the opposite foot over. Now one foot or one leg might feel a little more tight than the other. That's okay. So here my hand is just resting. I'm not pushing. I'm not putting any force in my hand. If I wanted to put a little force, I'd bring my hand up higher on the thigh. And still, it's not going to feel very intense. I want it to be subtle. I want the leg to sink into the stretch. When I feel as though I've been holding this for a balanced amount of time, I'm going to go ahead and release my hands and bring my foot back down to the ground. Okay. I'd like to show you a few things for shoulders, but for just about 10 seconds I need to step away and grab my prop that I didn't bring with me. So I'll be right back. All right, I have my prop. I live in Illinois, central Illinois to be more specific, and here today it's been in the 30s. It's cold. I woke up with frost on my windshield this morning. I recognize that some people watching this video may be in warmer weather and may not have to deal with the cold. But one thing I think we can all agree on, our scarves are great. And so I'm just going to imagine as though if you're out on a family function, specifically in the state of Illinois this time of year, especially this year, you might have a scarf handy. If you don't have a scarf, a men's tie, a long rope, all can work. You might even find one of those stretchy workout bands, I forget what they're called, resistance bands. Those might work as well. And so from here, still in a seated position, I'm going to bring my hands slightly wider than my hips. Now, I've got tails on both sides of my scarf. And so here what I want to do is I want to give myself some permission to adjust. So as I move through this, I might widen my hands and I might bring them a little closer together depending on what my shoulders are telling me. And so there's no rule on how close your hands or far apart your hands need to be. we're working with rotation and mobility. So let that be the focus for this. So taking your scarf out in front of you, go ahead and let your scarf tap your legs. And then when you're ready to inhale, inhale the scarf up and overhead. Now this is where it starts to get tricky because we tend to be the most tight in the backside of our body. So when you start to lower the strap back and behind you, that might be the cue to widen your hands so that you can bring that rotation in. I'm going to let the strap tap the back of my body. I'm going to bring my arms back up overhead, and I'm going to bring the strap back down. And I'm just going to move at the pace of my own breath, inhaling, drawing the strap up, exhale, drawing the strap, or the scarf in this case, down. And I'm just going to move back and forth at the pace of my own breath. What this does is this helps bring some space across my chest, bringing a little stretch into the pec minors. It also brings the rotation in through the shoulders. You don't want to keep your hands close together if you're starting to feel pinching. And when you move the strap or the scarf behind you, back here is where it's typically the most tight for individuals. We don't tend to move our arms in that direction. And so if you feel like you're catching back there, you kind of get to this point where you've got this little hiccup and you might have to bend your arms to get it all the way down. Widen your hands. See if you can move from a wider space. And I have clients joke that sometimes that means their scarf buffs their head, but we can come up with our own jokes and move from there. Finally, for this last piece, it's still going to be a shoulder piece, but we're going to target in between the shoulder blades. And I'm going to take one arm, I'm going to cross it across my chest, and I'm going to hook it with my opposite arm. And this is going to get, hopefully, more in the shoulder blade. At least that's where I feel it the most. I like to hold this particular move for about 30 to 60 seconds before switching sides and getting the other arm. So those are the options and the postures that I have available to you that don't bring compression into the abdomen, that are easy to do within a chair, and don't require any props you find in the studio. Feel free to email me or put a message in the comments with any questions. My email is carmen@mainstreetyoga.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope everyone has a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving. Namaste.